This is the 415ers podcast brought to you by the Odyssey Sports Podcast Network, 95.7 The Game. Please download, rate, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. 5 stars are appreciated. 4.5 if that's a thing at the minimum.
No,
Okay,
5. Come on.
no, 5, just a pure 5. Actually,
Yes.
I think we're still rolling on 5s, Mark. I don't think we've
We
gotten
got a
anything
perfect
less.
score?
We got a perfect score right now. So yeah, if you do rate it, please don't ruin that score. Don't be that guy.
We
Don't be
will
that guy.
track you down and try to find out who ruined our perfect rating.
Yeah, Mark's got a lock on IP addresses across the interwebs. So if we are talking about the fear factor, the reason for any fear factor to me in the NFC, and this is not to take a shot at I don't know, the 49ers or any team in the NFC, but just looking at the quarterbacks, okay? So you have Jalen Hurts, who maybe is a top 2, top 3 quarterback, and then the rest of the quarterbacks 1 through probably 7, 8 are all in the AFC. So when we're talking about a reason to feel confident and a fear factor quality for the 49ers or any other NFC team, it's going to be because of their roster. And I know that they'll have some decisions to make as far as free agents are concerned. Mark, you laid out how many decisions a team like the Eagles will have to make on our previous episode. But, right now, the 49ers, I don't know if there's a ton of tinkering they need to do roster-wise, Mark, but I don't know why you wouldn't feel confident in them moving forward this year outside of course, the guy who's going to be under center.
Yeah, no, you absolutely should be. And it's wild that you have a team like the 49ers, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I think, Evan, after the Super Bowl. So I guess, more recent than that. But the Niners are, co-favorites in the NFC or the favorites in the NFC, depending on which sports book you look at, to win the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I think the Niners have actually leaned the odds have leaned to the Niners' favor since then. If you look now, the Niners' odds are even better to make it and win the Super Bowl. So take that for what you will. But what it means is there is general public confidence in the 49ers and their ability to compete at a high level and go deep into the postseason. That is really rare for a team that is led by quarterbacks that are generally unproven, that are coming off of serious injuries, and you're not even really sure who is going to start week 1. That just generally does not happen in the NFL. And just a few days ago, ESPN, 10 of their football experts came out with a, way too early 2023 season kind of prediction thing. 10 experts, 7 of them picked the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl. 7 of ESPN's 10 experts picked the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl. Now, only one of those 7 picked the Niners to win in the Super Bowl, but still, 7 of the 10 think the Niners are going to the Super Bowl. How rare is that to have a team with the quarterback situation the Niners have as the favorite in the NFC? That does not happen. And what does that tell you? It's to your point, Evan. The Niners roster is so complete around the quarterback, even with some questions here pre-free agency. The Niners roster is so much more complete than almost any other around the NFC that, quarterback questions aside, you can almost pencil in the 49ers as a top 3 seed in the NFC. You can almost pencil them in at this point because that's how good the rest of their roster is.
Yeah, right now, if assuming nothing drastic changes, if the 49ers are not the 1 seed next year, I'm going to be a little pissed, honestly. They have no reason to not be at this point unless, God forbid, something goes wrong with Brock Purdy's surgery and, Trey Lance. It's, quarterback carousel all over again next year. And I think that's what I take away from that survey, hearing that 7 of the 10 selected the Niners to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC, but only, and this is, I think, the most telling part, Mark, 1 of those 7 actually picked them to win the Super Bowl. A lot of them either had, of course, the Chiefs, the Bengals, maybe the Bills, some sort of iteration, 1, 2, or 3 or 4 AFC teams perhaps could be ones to represent and win the Super Bowl on the AFC side, whereas it's hard to see a team not named the 49ers right now coming out of the NFC. But, and that's right now where, again, if we're talking about NFC quarterback rankings, Brock Purdy, to me, last year, top 5. maybe heading into next season outside of the top 5. What the 49ers need from the quarterback position, in my opinion, to force some of these experts into thinking that they can win the Super Bowl would be top 3 NFC quarterback level play. Like, that's to me even the baseline of what they would need to compete at the highest level, because we saw a significant drop off between Jalen Hurts, like you said, and the rest of the NFC quarterbacks last year. And even then, with a great game from Jalen Hurts, it was not enough to beat Kansas City. Who knows who's going to come out of the AFC next year, because it's very difficult, and history's told us that teams simply do not repeat in the NFL as Super Bowl champs, nor do they often even return to the Super Bowl. That would tell you that there is a window open here for the 49ers, and the quarterback position is probably going to determine that, like it determines very many other things here in the NFL.
Yeah, and there's a very real chance that the starting quarterback for the 49ers in the postseason, in a potential NFC championship game, in a potential Super Bowl, might not be exactly who we're expecting. If the last season, the last, I don't know, 18 months, maybe a little less than that, I guess maybe 12 months, last year of Niners quarterback things are any indication, this might be a season that we're not quite expecting at the quarterback position. Um, One thing I did want to make sure I said, those ESPN predictions, a lot of kind of the Niners of the AFC, or the Bengals, a lot of Bengals picks by those ESPN experts. And I don't know how you feel about the Bengals, Evan. I know we talked about it, like Joe Burrow in a postseason game. I feel like it's getting to a point where it's really hard to bet against him, because he's just always cool under pressure and seems to find a way. I think this offseason is the time that we see the Bengals starting to get poached. We see other teams taking advantage of their players, of things that they've developed. I think the Bengals are going to be in for a little bit of a decline this coming season. Not saying they're missing the playoffs or anything, but I would not bet on them to make the Super Bowl in that conference. That conference is insanely deep and talented and good with all those quarterbacks. And who knows what happens with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? Maybe they don't even win the division. Not saying I'm betting on that, but I got to get that off my chest. I don't think the Bengals are going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. That's not much of a hot take, but I think we'll see them fall off just a little bit after, a couple of really incredible years back to back.
I'm with you on the fall off. I do think it's primarily because of the division, and not just because of the Ravens. I also think the Steelers showed last year that with a
Ooh.
general competent quarterback, like, they can win games.
You a fan of
Uh,
Kenny Pickett?
I'm a fan of TJ Watt, who didn't play the entire year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm also, it pains me to say this, but I do think the Cleveland Browns will be a lot better next season with a full year of
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson and whatever he chooses to do. I will not be rooting for them, but I do think that outside of the AFC West, it, I, the AFC East is pretty damn good too, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's more parity in the NFC North across all 4 teams, at least at this point. I know you
That's
got
always gonna be Yeah, that's always gonna be a dogfight of division anyways. Doesn't even really matter, like, what the teams are like, that's always gonna come down to a game in December in Pittsburgh. You gotta win and you're the division champs. If not, you're gonna lose. Like, it always comes down to something like that anyways.
Yeah, like, the Steelers will find a way to steal a win from Cincinnati or on the road or at home, or I don't know. They'll just beat each other up. I do think that there is, and what we're seeing from this panel is that people trust the quarterback, and Joe
Yeah.
Burrow is the second best quarterback in football. I think that's pretty safe to say, behind Patrick Mahomes. I don't know why anyone would think still that he's number one over Patrick Mahomes. But so if you're looking at, all right, I don't want to make the clear, obvious choice. Kansas City, they're going to be riding high and they're probably due for some decline. It's going to be the Bengals next to step back up and make the Super Bowl. I thought that the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl this year, and they were potentially, a late penalty away from making it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in the big game next year. But either way, AFC is looking like, I'm glad that the 49ers do not play in
Oh,
the
yeah.
AFC 100%, because we would not be allowed to have these conversations with as much confidence as we do. Because no offense to San Francisco, but if you put them in that conference, they might be the third, fourth, fifth best team at this point instead of looking at them as the clear number one.
Yeah, no, you put the Niners in the AFC, say you swap them out with like a I don't know, say you swap them out with the Raiders. You kind of keep the, the
Raiders would
West
love that.
they would. The West idea going on. Niners would probably be like the fifth favorite to win the conference. I think that's how much the quarterbacks matter when you're going up against other quarterbacks that are great, and that's what the AFC is. You could tell people that Brock Purdy would continue what he did at the end of this regular season and play relatively similar to a comparable level this coming season, Evan. But I still think the Niners would be like the fourth or fifth favorite in the NFC because even at the level Purdy was playing at, there's a gigantic jump to get to a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, a Patrick Mahomes, even a Justin Herbert. Like that's a gigantic leap beyond what Brock Purdy has already done. So I'm with you. The AFC is a different beast. The Niners should be, thanking their Lord and Savior every night that they're not in a conference like that. Because if they did, they would probably be forced into being a little more creative at the quarterback position. But they're not. They think instead of having to beat 3 elite quarterbacks in the postseason, maybe they only got to beat 1. If they're unlucky, 2 if they have to meet Jalen Hurts again in the postseason. So, taking stock of where you are and your surroundings is a big part of team building and trying to win. And the Niners, I think, have realized there is a quarterback deficiency in the NFC. And as a result, they think they can win the conference without perhaps one of the most elite quarterbacks in the game. Now, of course, they would love an elite quarterback, but they're not going to go out of their way to trade off, to sell off some of their other elite players to try to grasp at an elite quarterback when they think they can compete in this conference with what they currently have.
Well, and hopefully the next couple of years, an elite quarterback will reveal itself in San Francisco, whether that's Brock Purdy, whether that's Trey Lance, whether it's someone that's not even on the team. Who knows? Because right now, that is the question mark in San Francisco. And we're going to find out a little more about that question on Wednesday. Of course, when Brock Purdy gets his hopeful reconstructive surgery, hopefully no setbacks there. Or repaired surgery, I should say, not reconstructive. And so he'll be back hopefully before the beginning of this season. We'll have a lot to talk about, a lot to break down, and that will be the crux. That will be the theme of our next episode coming to you later this week. Keep an eye out for the 415ers podcast. A big prayer for Brock Purdy. Hopefully we can get him back soon, Mark.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, again, we don't really know yet. They're gonna, open up his elbow, see if he needs full Tommy John or just the repair. If it's just the repair, it says 6 months until he's able to go and practice and play. But if they are surprised and he happens to need Tommy John, then welcome to the Trey Lance era once again, because that's what it's going to be in 2023. So fingers crossed, no surprises for Trey Lance and his whole team down there getting the surgery in Texas.
Well, the 415 era rolls on here on Odyssey Sports Podcast Network and 95.7 The Game. Mark, appreciate you as always, and we'll talk to you next time.